intelligent people who live in this society know there's something missing. They know it. This is why we act the way we do.
Right.
This is why we don't know whether we should be Arabs, you know what I'm saying? No, or Europeans. We get confused. We know there is something going on with us that we can't quite put a hand on it, you know, and say, what is this about what our condition is and who we are as a people? What do we need to do? There is a story that in 1644. In 1644, when the first Africans, in August 8th, 1644, the first group of Africans landed in the Algarve in Portugal. One of the Portuguese historians wrote, he said, I've never seen such a piteous group of people. They get off the ship, and they put them in the open field, and there they are standing, some of them with their heads held low, their face bathed in tears, groaning in the most awful way. Some of them looking to the sky and crying out to the sky. Some of them just hitting their face, like, how did this happen to me, with their hands? And some just threw themselves on the ground in lamentations and a very sad dirge. This is what he wrote, Zerara. And I said to myself, in thinking about that, in reading what Zerara said about us, I say, well, you know, today there's still some doing that. Because if you're not Afrocentric, if you don't have a sense of your own agency, what you are capable of doing, your own sense of self-determination, it will be the lot of us. And so all my life, from the time I was 11 or 12 years old, picking cotton in the Georgia cotton fields, my ambition was to run toward Africa. I knew something was wrong. I said, you know, why I'm out here in this hot sun, right? You know, for $3 a day. This does not seem right. And I have to take this and to the white guy, and the white guy gives me $3. Meanwhile, he's sitting up there drinking a beer. This doesn't make any sense in the world. What kind of sense is this? You know, so I knew. And when I would go home and tell my mother these things, because, you know, back in those days, when you worked, you had to go and give your money to your parents.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Young people today, they don't do that. I don't know, but we I don't know. We work, and even though it was hard work and everything, your money went to your parents. They decided what to give you.
Amen.
So that's what we have to do. I said, no, this is not for me. And fortunately for me, in many ways, I had a memory. That's the one talent that I had. I could memorize things. And I could demonstrate memory. And I could go to the church and listen to the preacher. And my mother and father didn't go to church. So when I came home, my daddy would say, boy, what did the preacher say? And I would tell him what the preacher said. And this was very impressive to my parents. But this boy has a talent, you know. You know, Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac begot Jacob, and Jacob begot Judas, and Judas begot Phares, and Phares begot Ezram, and Ezram begot Aminadab, and Aminadab begot Nason, and Nason begot Salmon, and Salmon begot Boaz, and Boaz begot Jesse, and Jesse begot David, and Jesus is the son of David. My daddy said, wow, boy, you're going to be a preacher. That's what my father, I'm telling you, that's what he said. He said, boy, this is something you got, you know. So they looked around for a school to send me to at 11 years old. They found there were like 5 or 6 African-American boarding schools. They found this church school in Nashville, Tennessee. And they sent me to the Nashville Christian Institute. I went there from the time I was in the 6th grade to the time I finished high school. Now, that was my beginning. Brother Ebo is looking at me like, I don't believe this. I'm telling you, Brother Ebo, it's all in here. It's all in here. Suzette can tell you, it's all in here, right? I tell you that experience, and it was an incredible experience. There's another part to that experience. There was a white man named Billy Sol Estes. Anybody ever heard of him?
Yes, yes.
Oh, a few people heard of Billy Sol Estes. Billy Sol Estes in the early 60s was considered one of the richest people in the country and so forth. He came to my school with the governor of the state of Tennessee. And the principal of the school had me to get up and introduce them. And I got up and introduced them. We learned many techniques of speaking at that school. That was a very good school, absolutely. So after I introduced him, he got up and he said to the principal, this young man, who is this young man? Where is he from? And my principal at that time, or president of the school, actually not the principal. The principal was Otis Boatwright, but the president was Marshall Keeble. Marshall Keeble, he was a kind of person who spoke his mind on everything. There was nothing that was a secret to him. So he got up and he said, well, Mr. Estes, he said, that boy comes from a very poor family. There are 16 children in his family, and his mother and father, they don't even have enough money to pay his tuition here at the school. Tuition was $40 a month. So then Estes got up and said, Mr. Keeble, how much is the tuition? He said, $40 a month. He said, you know what? Choose 40 students, including this one, and I will pay their tuition. Billy Sol Estes said that. Well, 3 or 4 years later, Billy Sol Estes is indicted by the federal government for fraud and claiming that he had collateral for loans that he didn't have. And so he is, fortunately for me too, my tuition has been paid. I'm on the way to college. And Billy Sol Estes is on his way to jail. But before he goes to jail, I go out, I visit his family, his wife, Patsy, their 2 kids, and I talk to him. And then as I talk to him, Shanuti, how you? And I talk to him, and then as I talk to him, the most incredible thing happened, and that is that he started crying. He said, tears in his eyes, and he said, it's amazing when you're rich, everybody's your friend, because they claimed he had $150 million and so on, and he did have it. But the problem was, you can have, I told my son this yesterday, you can have $150 million, but at the end of the year, if you owe $250 million, you broke. You're in trouble. That was his problem. No, he made a lot of money, and he lived a rich life, but he could not pay his bills. So that was the thing. But at any rate, that story is in here. Now, as I run toward Africa, is that my life then takes on this whole change, because I met a brother from Africa, Essien, for the first time, Essien. And I never met anybody from the continent, even though I always looked toward the continent. I had dreams and ambitions toward the continent, but I never met anybody. So I meet this college student from Nigeria, and I ask him the stupid questions that people still ask. Do y'all have telephones?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm from Georgia. I'm just up from the country. I don't know nothing. Nobody's ever told me anything about Africa. I never read anything about Africa. Yeah. So I'm asking this brother. He became my tutor, and he taught me everything that he could about Africa, and it inspired me to know more. This was Essien, who just passed away last year. Now, the interesting thing, he became a medical doctor and remained in the States. But the interesting thing is that from that point on, I became a person trying to actually rid myself of all aspects of European culture that I could think of. Like, how do I get my head out of Europe? That's the thing I've got to do. I've got to figure out what is Africa, what's the source of everything. I mean, if we ask ourselves the question about information and knowledge, if we say, well, what about religion? My question was then, what did the Africans believe? It's not what Europe believed. I know what they believe. I know what the Arabs believe. I know what the Asians believe. Well, what did Africans believe? That was at the heart of everything for me. It was like, what did my people do? If we talk about mathematics, what was our mathematics like? We're the oldest people. So we had to think about this before anybody else. What did we think? What were the traditions of black people, African people? So this was my burning desire. So I go to school, go to UCLA, and it's a fight, it's a struggle. I'm a good student, so I mastered their stuff, and as I mastered their information, it also occurred to me that their information missed a lot of factual information about black people. There's nothing, no information at all about us. And all my education, all the way to the PhD, it was almost no African or African American theorists, people who thought, philosophers, no intellectuals. Not even Du Bois was in one of my classes as a major person. Not even Sheikh Anta Diop. So I began running fast. That meant that when I got my PhD, I had to even run against my education. I had to oppose what they taught me at UCLA. So it took me years to get UCLA out of my mind. You know, it had gotten into all the crevices of my brain. I had to get all that stuff out. They asked who was the most important intellectual of the 20th century. And I had to think Africa, an African. That's the way I began to do. That's how I began to develop this notion of agency. What's our agency? What do we have as black people to put on the table? And the other thing, I'll tell you this, and I won't be long. I used to go to the library, and I would go to the library and I'd see these thousands of books, all of them written by white people. And then you go to the African section, and the books that they wrote about us, the negative things they said about black people, savages, primitives of Ethiopia, people. It was just so overwhelmingly negative. I said, we are so far behind in writing about ourselves that there are other people who have become authorities about us. We are not authorities about anybody, not even ourselves. But they are authorities. I mean, not only are they the authorities, they make us have to go to them to find out information about us. That is, it's the strangest thing. No other people I know have this problem. I mean, you don't find that the Jewish people, for example, have to go to black people to find out about Jewish history. You're not going. You can't do that. They know. They have to take control of their own history. African people must take control of their own history. Who is to say to us that Egypt is not a part of Africa? How can somebody who's not an African say that? Who gives them the right to tell us what our history is, what our geography is? That we are in charge of our own history. You see what I'm saying? If we state it, then it's true because it comes from us. It's our agency. Just like if they state it, I'm not going to deny if a British person comes and tells me about the Anglos and the Saxons and so on, I'm not going to have any big dispute with them about that. That's their history. That's their right to write their history and interpret it as they see it. But don't mess with mine. Come on.